Welcome into Sportsmemo's Betting Podcast, NFL edition, NFL every game on the board. We're breaking down all the Sunday games plus the Monday nighter with Rob Vino up first. Rob, welcome into the podcast. How you doing?
I am doing great today, Drew. How about yourself? Happy Friday to you.
Hey, happy Friday. It is Friday the 13th, Robbie, so got to watch the volume. Don't want to go too crazy on these bets, right?
Absolutely. Well, they don't give us a ton today, so thank goodness it's not a Saturday card on Friday the 13th.
All right, man. I'm here in Vegas, and just last night it was a full moon, man. Clear skies, so I don't know if it's a full moon, not that type of guy to be following the moon if it's full, whatever, but I don't know, man. It might be a scary night to get kind of wild, so be safe, Robbie.
I will do that, buddy. I'll definitely do that. I'll be watching games.
All right, we got 261, 262 up first. Indianapolis at Tennessee. Titans laying 3.5 at home. 44 the total, Robbie.
Yeah, so Indianapolis last week, Drew, with Jacoby Brissett at the helm, goes out to San Diego, gets behind, comes back, forces overtime. You catch the 6.5, so you get yourself a cover because the Los Angeles, gee whiz, I still call them San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers don't kick the extra point, but I think it was a real nice showing out of the Colts in that particular game. Now, they're somewhat shorthanded at the wide receiver position this week due to injury. However, they seem to have multiple ways to move the ball down the field, whether it be through tight ends or backside of the backfield. And they ran the ball with Marlon Mack very, very well last week. So you get a divisional matchup against a team that looked outstanding in the Tennessee Titans in their demolition of Cleveland last week. I think Indianapolis on the road here might be worth a look, Drew. I think they're going to be overlooked somewhat by people. The old saying that people tend to remember what they saw last, and what they saw last was the Titans crushing Cleveland. I think Indianapolis matches up well here. I think Brissett showed well for himself. Wouldn't expect him to be a guy who's intimidated at all as the starting quarterback. And tell you the truth, when you go ahead and look at the overall statistics for that game against the Chargers, rushing for 6.2 yards a carry is a pretty good number when you have 33 carries in the game. So I think Indianapolis might be able to shorten it here. I think Frank Reich will come up with a pretty good game plan, and we'll see if their defense can get to Marcus Mariota. Indianapolis, not a bad pass rush team. I'd probably side with the Colts plus the number here.
All right, Robbie, moving down the line, we do have the aforementioned Chargers, and they'll always be the San Diego Chargers to me, Robbie. No harm in calling them that, but they are playing out of LA, I guess, but visiting Detroit here. 47.5 the total, seeing 2.5. That's the Chargers laying on the road.
Yeah, they've got real injury concerns. This poor team just can't keep themselves healthy year in and year out. But last couple of years, they've found players to step in and sort of the next man up attitude. So I'm not going to sell the LA Chargers short here. But it is kind of a tough, road trip for them to Detroit, to the Eastern time zone, west to east. And again, we don't blanket statement that sort of angle, but it does apply in certain cases. They come to play the Detroit Lions, who actually had that game won last week. And if not for a timeout call by their own coaching staff on a play that would have gone for a first down and sealed the deal for Detroit. The clock, they probably could have milked the rest of the clock and won that game. Unfortunate bad break for them. Arizona comes back, winds up in a tie. But you like the way Detroit showed for themselves offensively, and I think they might pose a little bit of a problem to the Chargers defense in this game. Phillip Rivers, no matter who's running pass patterns for him, is always going to be able to light it up through the air. And we saw Austin Eckler last week at running back do a great job in place of Melvin Gordon while he holds out. So LA's got all the offensive pieces working. It's the defensive side, like I say, that I worry about a little bit. And I think Detroit coming home here is in a little more of a desperate situation. The numbers come down a little bit, which was surprising to me. They opened 3, bet down to like 2.5, so there was some Detroit money out there early. We'll see if it turns into Charger money over the weekend. Haven't played the game, Drew, but I have a slight lean here toward the home underdog, Detroit. And Matthew Stafford showing that they've got weapons through the air, and certainly with Kerryon Johnson in the backfield, running against a team that allowed 203 rushing yards and 6.2 per carry. I know Indianapolis has a really nice offensive line, but Detroit might be able to make something work on the ground, which opens up things through the air. Like I say, I haven't played it yet, but I do have a little bit of a feeling that Detroit's going to show up big in this game.
Robbie, next game up, interesting angle here where the away team has played more games, more regular season games year to date than the home team in the home team stadium. Talking about Buffalo at the New York Giants, and the reason is because Buffalo played against the New York Jets in MetLife just last week. Now it's week 2 playing against the New York Giants in MetLife. So it's kind of an interesting handicap there, but we're seeing a total of 44. Pick 'em price to -1.5. That's the Bills laying on the road, Robbie.
Yeah, they deserved the win last week, Drew. They had to come from way behind to get it. They only win by 17-16, but statistically they outplayed the Jets in that contest, out first downed them, out rushed them, out passed them. The total yardage was in their favor. What didn't happen for them was the turnover margin. They lose the turnover margin -3. They commit 4. The Jets only commit 1, and yet they still, with a -3, wind up winning that game 17-16. So good job by Sean McDermott's team. Turn around and play the Giants here, whose loss looks extremely bad on its surface, 35-17. And yes, Dallas moved the ball up and down the field through the air, 405 yards passing. Has people after 1 week basically feeling that Dak Prescott's going to become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But the Giants did some damage offensively against Dallas on their own. 470 total yards in an 18-point loss. You don't see that often, especially when the yardage difference is only 24 yards. So the Giants are capable, certainly, of moving the football. They showed us. I think Buffalo's the better team if we talk about overall offense, defense, special teams. And I think the defensive advantage for Buffalo probably shows up here. Like you said, they don't have to have any travel for this game, so that'll be nice for them. Point spread looked a little bit low. I have to think that Buffalo can make enough stops. Let's put it that way, Drew. I think they can make enough stops in this game to sort of distance themselves from the Giants, and certainly by more than 1.5 points. So I look for maybe a victory of 6 or more here, like the Bills in this spot. I think that's a confidence builder last week for Josh Allen and company to come back and get that win. And you can't really like what you saw out of the Giant defense last week, despite the fact that it's against a real good Dallas offense. Boy, 500 yards basically allowed. It just isn't a good sign to start the season.
Robbie, next game up, we got Arizona at Baltimore. Looks like the Ravens 12.5 at home. 45.5 the total here, Robbie.
Another one where the first week result kind of has people carried away, Drew. You listen to and read a lot of analysts out there where the Baltimore Ravens are concerned, and all of a sudden, Baltimore plays a Miami team that is not very good, that is very young. Lamar Jackson goes crazy. They score 59 points. They set franchise records for points scored, total yards, all kinds of things. But all of a sudden, you would think, reading and listening, that this is the best offense in the NFL, that Lamar Jackson is on his way to being the best quarterback in the NFL. It helps Baltimore that they get a team in Arizona this week that played without its starting corners in week 1 and might be hindered in the secondary again this week. So certainly Baltimore's catching teams at good, and they're catching poor teams at good points in the season. But I wonder down the line with Baltimore here offensively if they're going to be every bit of what people are seeming to make them out to be right now. Arizona comes on in the fourth quarter. They win that game. Kyler Murray leads them to, I think it was 18 unanswered points maybe against the Lions that got them into overtime. The offense started to click, But here, Drew, to come to Baltimore and play this, again, West Coast to East Coast game, that's going to matter in this situation. And I don't know that Kyler Murray's going to find the type of success against Baltimore in this stadium that he found in the fourth quarter at home against Detroit. Detroit seemed to wilt last week physically in that game. Kyler Murray was untouched during that run where they scored a bunch of points and tied the game. Detroit's defense just looked as if they were fatigued. That can happen to you when you go out to Arizona in September. In this case, coming east, I don't think Arizona holds any cards in this contest. Of course, the line reflects it. They're a 13-point underdog, and the total's been bet like crazy. 41.5 all the way to last I saw before we came on the podcast was 46. I can't play Baltimore at that price. I just won't lay it at this point in time. I'd have to see that type of offensive outburst more than once. The 46 kind of now is out of reach as well. So this game becomes difficult to play side or total.
Yeah, this game has backdoor cover written all over it to me. Just like a non-important touchdown to
right.
the straight up total there, Robbie. I don't know. I don't like laying teams that are going to be laying two touchdowns here almost in the NFL to a team that's going to be throwing the ball even late in the game. We've seen Kingsbury do it before. The game is out of reach, yet they're still gunning to score. So I would be on an Arizona or pass here, but who knows? Will be an interesting one. Also an interesting handicap here, Robbie. AFC East, largest number on the board, largest number in quite some time in the NFL. We're seeing the New England Patriots up near 3 touchdowns, minus 19.5 seems to be the high number here. Just under a 50 total. Couple interesting points that I just wanted to bring up. One, obviously Miami losing straight up, losing against the spread week 1, looking terrible doing it. But the fact that Tom Brady's just 7-9 in Hard Rock Stadium down there in South Florida, whatever it is, he really hasn't played well in this stadium against the Dolphins. We remember last time they were down here just last year, the Dolphins knocked him off, and that was Hail Mary running around Gronk to score a touchdown. But still, I mean, this Miami Dolphins team, I don't know if they're bettable. At some number they are, Robbie. It's just, is this that number? How do you feel here with the Pats and the Dolphins?
Yeah, you get New England on a short work week as well, right? They play the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
And have to travel to Miami. There's some situational things where you would love to go ahead and take the points with Miami, but I kind of second your sentiment there that they might be unbettable at this number at this point, especially with the announcement today that to go along with New England's arsenal, they're going to be able to add Antonio Brown to it on Sunday. He'll play in that game. The NFL's not going to step in and prevent that. Just what Tom Brady needs off of watching them on Sunday in that 33-3 rout of Pittsburgh is another home run threat on the offensive side of the football against a team that gave up 643 yards total offense to the Baltimore Ravens. Hey, at some point, Bill Belichick may take it easy on Brian Flores. It's one of his, former coaches.
Oh, interesting point there, yeah.
Who's gone down to Miami to take the head coaching job, and maybe Belichick eases up. But the question is, Drew, if it's 38-3, third quarter, and he eases up, can you get under the number? Can Miami score enough to get to within 19 points? And that's really hard to say. I don't know that I'd like to play this game as far as side is concerned. I'd have to recommend New England or nothing. I can't really at this point recommend Miami, especially with a bunch of players after the game. Reportedly, now I didn't hear too much about this after Sunday night, Monday morning, Monday afternoon, but reportedly players for the Dolphins went to their agents, a handful of players, call up and ask to get them out of Miami because the team isn't taking the season serious, and this tanking thing has come into play here as a narrative. I don't know how true that is, but if any of it's true, it's not a good sign for that particular locker room. A guy who's in his first year and first game as a head coach to have to deal with that right off the bat, not good. I'd be more inclined to go ahead and play total here, thinking that New England can score whatever they want, and if Belichick does ease up fourth quarter, mid-third quarter, whenever it is, if the lead is big enough, then Miami comes in and scores a few points. Total, I think we're looking at 49 here. So you need a bunch, but last week, heck, they got to 69 in that game with Baltimore. So maybe that's the way I would look over the total.
Robbie, next game up, we got Dallas versus Washington, NFC East matchup here. 46.5 the total. Cowboys laying 5.5 or 6 on the road.
Yeah, what a display last week by the Redskins, Drew, especially through the air on offense. You know, there's a lot of people out there who have the Washington Redskins power rated going into week one as the worst team in the NFL. Now, of course, we play a week. Miami's everybody's worst team. Washington climbs up the numbers a little bit, but there are a lot out there who thought, Case Keenum leading this team. None of the quarterbacks looked good. There's that theory in preseason football where if you have a huge three-person quarterback battle in preseason, you go ahead and bet that team, but none of the quarterbacks looked good for the Redskins. Then Keenum comes out and absolutely lights up the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, there was a spurt, let's say, start of the third quarter till mid-fourth quarter when Philadelphia's defense really locked down, but then Washington came back with a long touchdown drive, I think a 75-yard touchdown drive to end the game and backdoor cover that game. Philly had built a 32-20 lead. Washington scores with like 6 seconds left. They convert 2 fourth downs on that drive. Keenum with a lot of short to mid-range passes just very easily moved the team downfield and got them that cover. They throw for 370 yards in that game. That's a big number only because Dallas allowed the Giants to complete 69% of their passes and for 319 yards in their opening game. So you can see that the Washington pass offense versus the Dallas pass defense might be a matchup that the Redskins can capitalize on here. I think that's the reason why this total bumped up, Drew. 44, got to 47, came back to 46.5, which is key because 47 is obviously a key number when betting totals. NFL, you see a lot of games land on 47, so to have it back to 46.5, guys who like the over probably come back and take up those 46.5s. Dallas's offense looked unstoppable. Washington couldn't stop Philly second half last week, so I can make a lot of cases for why this total has been bet up and why it might get over the number again. You're on the East Coast in September where you're still getting good weather, so weather's not a concern here. Dallas is just so multi-dimensional on the offensive side at this point. I find it hard to see where the Redskins are going to stop them, but I was really impressed, Drew, I have to say, with the way that the Washington offensive line held up against Philadelphia. Washington threw 44 passes in that game against the Eagles, and they were sacked one time for 0 yards of lost yardage. So that's a real good sign for a team that wasn't supposed to be good across the front. I think, again, bettors might have this one right. Early market movement toward the over. I support that myself.
Robbie, we got last game up for this segment, then we're bringing Hunter Engelhart in. We got Jacksonville versus Houston. But first up, do want to give a shout-out to Robbie. He's been good. And Robbie, what the major plays in terms of the 4 and 5 percenters, you've actually been killing it. 5 percenters last year, blue chip totals 11 and 3, that's 79%. 134 and 84, that's 62%, and that goes back multi-year there. So some good stuff there in college football, also some NFL success as well. He's got a free play written up on the Eastern Michigan versus Illinois game. You can check it out at sportsmemo.com, like in Eastern Michigan there, but you got to read out the analysis, full analysis there at sportsmemo.com. And we have the podcast coupon code VINO49